sisters, and welcome to the lesson. Today's lesson will be entitled, The Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. I am Tazadok of the House of Judah Fellowship. Let's dive right in. First, we're going to go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 12. Again, that is Genesis chapter 1, verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Next, we're going to go to James chapter 1, verse 13. And that reads, Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither he tempteth any man. So the book of Genesis says that every plant that the Most High made in the beginning was good, not evil. And James says that the Most High cannot tempt any man to do evil. So the idea that the Christian church brings forth that the Most High created the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is simply impossible. However, it does raise the question, if the Most High did not create the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the beginning, then who did? Again, if the Most High did not create the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, who did? We will be answering that question and a couple more questions in this lesson today. First, we'll be going to 3rd Baruch, chapter 4, verse 8 through 9. Again, that is 3rd Baruch, chapter 4, verse 8 through 9. And I said, I pray thee, show me which is the tree that led Adam astray. And the angel said unto me, It is the vine which the angel Samuel planted. Again, I'm going to read that one more time. And the angel said unto me, It is the vine which the angel Samuel planted, whereat the Most High power was angry. And he cursed him and his plant, while also on this account he did not permit Adam to touch it. And therefore the devil, being envious, deceived him through his vine. So we see here, according to Baruch, that the tree was not planted by the Most High. It wasn't created by the Most High. It was planted by the angel Samuel. Now, many who haven't read the book of Enoch wouldn't know who Samuel is. But if you read verse 9, it makes it clear that Samuel is Satan. After saying Samuel planted the tree in 3rd Baruch chapter 4, it says that the Most High was angry, and it cursed him and his plant. Again, it says here in verse 8, it says, And the angel said unto me, It is the vine which the angel Samuel planted. So this vine that Samuel planted was his. That's why it says, And he cursed him and his plant. Now when you go to verse 9, it says, The devil, being envious, deceived him through his vine. So it tells us in verse 8 that the plant belongs to Samuel, and then when you go to verse 9, it says that the plant belongs to the devil. The devil and Samuel are synonymous. So we see here that the angel Samuel, we know that Satan has many names. He goes by Lucifer, he goes by Satan, he goes by all the gods of this world that we worship, Yahweh, right? So we see here that Samuel, according to 3rd Baruch chapter 4, is Satan. But we're going to get some precepts on that. First, we're going to go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Most High power had made. Revelations chapter 12, verse 9. And the dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world, and cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Right? So now we're seeing the origin of where Satan came from. It says that old serpent. Keep that in your mind, because it doesn't say new serpent. It says old serpent. That means that this serpent has been around for a long time. So it gives Satan many different names in this one scripture. It says the great dragon, which we see in the book of Revelations. We see it in the book of Daniel, right? So we're going to continue. So we're going to continue to see that, right? And it says that old serpent, right? And it says called the devil and Satan. So he has multiple names. It makes this clear. He's called by different things. However, he's been around since the beginning. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. Again, that is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? This is talking about when he was cast out of heaven. When he was cast out of heaven, and in the garden, he was told that he told the serpent that he would now go upon his belly. He was cast down to the ground, right? He lost his wings. Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 13. Thou hast been in the garden of God. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God, right? Let's drop down to verse 16. By the multitude of thy merchandise, thou hast filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as a profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, and I will cover, O covering cherub of the midst of stones of fire. Right, so here it gives you it tells you specifically that he was in the Garden of Eden in the beginning. It says, thou hast been in the garden of God, right? So we see that script, he was called that old serpent for a reason. He was the serpent that was in the Garden of Eden when he deceived Eve and Adam, right? So through precepts, we can read that Satan was not only in the Garden of Eden, but he was also the serpent and the creator of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that was cursed, right? So we've already established so far that the Most High was not the one who planted the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why? Because Scripture says that everything that he created, including the trees and the fruits that were born from those trees, were good. They weren't evil. They were good. He said that they were good. Why would Scripture say that they were good if it wasn't? Right? And it also says he doesn't tempt man to do evil. So it's completely impossible that the Most High will create a tree to set in the garden and say, don't touch that. Right? So it's already made clear that Satan, or Samael, the angel, was the one who planted this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, what did this tree look like? A lot of people ask this question. They're like, oh, well, we don't know. Well, Scripture tells us what it looks like. Let's go to the book of Enoch, chapter 32, verse 3 through 6. And that reads, And I came to the garden of righteousness, and I saw beyond those trees many large trees growing there, and of goodly fragrance, large, very beautiful, and glorious, and the tree of wisdom whereof they eat, and know great wisdom. That tree and that tree is in height like the fir, and the leaves are like those of the carob tree, and the fruit of it is like clusters of the vine. Very beautiful, and the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, how beautiful is this tree, and how attractive is its look. And Raphael, the holy angel who was with me, answered me and said, This is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father and years of thy aged mother, who were before thee, have eaten. And they have learnt wisdom, and their eyes were opened. And when they knew that they were naked, they were driven out of the garden. Right? So Enoch is admiring this tree, and then Raphael comes behind him and tells him, oh, that's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He identifies the tree that Enoch is glorifying, that he's identifying, right? Now, what's awkward about this tree is that it's not like any other tree. It has components of different trees within it. It has different characteristics of different trees within it, or different types of plants or different fruits, right? Let's look at it. The fir tree, if you look it up, looks similar to an evergreen tree. It looks similar to an evergreen tree. An evergreen tree looks almost identical, except it's wider in diameter, right? But we look at the fir tree, it says the height of the fir tree can go anywhere from 33 feet tall to 262 feet tall, right? And it says that it has the leaves of a carob tree. Now, the carob tree has flat green leaves, not what you would find on a fir tree, right? A fir tree has more pins rather than leaves. And it says that the fruit clusters together on the vine, much like a grape would grow. So we're looking at this tree. We know that a fir tree wouldn't bear fruit, and we know that it also wouldn't have flat, round leaves. And so what is it that Enoch is looking at here? He's looking at a product of gene splicing. We know that Satan doesn't have the ability to create matter the way the Most High does. So what did he have to do? He had to take what the Most High had already created and make his own, right? He had to take what already existed and make his own. This was what he had did. This is what he had done, right? So the question arises, if this tree wasn't created by the Most High, why did the Most High allow it to stay there? Why did the Most High allow this tree to remain in the Garden of Eden? This question is answered in Scripture. Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15. See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Verse 16. In that I command thee this day to love the Most High thy power, and walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, thou mayest live and multiply. And the Most High thy power shall bless thee in their land, and the Most High shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. Dropping down to verse 19. And I call heaven and earth to record this day against you. And I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, and both thou and thy seed may live. So it's clear to see, according to these scriptures, that the Most High allowed the tree to remain in the Garden of remain in the Garden of Eden, because he placed before Adam and Eve the choice of good and evil, no different than what he does for us today. What we are supposed to choose, as Moses said, was choose the Most High. Choose good over evil. Keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, right? In every situation, there are always two paths. You have a good path and you have an evil path. The question is, will you choose the Most High or will you choose Satan, right? They had the tree of life. The tree of life is something that they could live off of for the rest of their lives. That was meant to last in eternity. However, they went for something temporal, right? We are expected every day, when presented good and evil, life and death, to choose life. You're expected to choose life. If somebody placed something before you, if somebody placed two plates in front of you, one that said life and one that said death, you would think that you would choose life. But the surprising part of it is that Scripture says, broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, right? It says it's going to be very rare for those who actually make it into the kingdom. So it's actually not odd for somebody to choose death rather than life. It seems awkward because it's like, who would choose death? But you would be surprised how many do. How many blindly choose death, and how many outright choose death. There are many who choose death blatantly. They know what they have coming, but yet they choose death anyways. Right? So, thank you for watching the lesson. I hope you were edified by this lesson. Very simple, very short. Basically, bringing forth the knowledge that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was not created by the Most High. That was a product of Satan, right? However, its purpose in the garden was the same purpose that the Most High continues to have today. He placed it before us life and death, good and evil. Shalom.